You are Locked On Boston College, your daily podcast on the Boston College Eagles, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome. This is Locked On Boston College. I am your host, AJ Black. Happy Monday, everyone. On today's show, we're going to talk about an injury that's going to definitely make an impact on Boston College football. We're also going to talk about the ACC and a possible alliance with other conferences. And finally, we will talk about linebackers. So let's kick it off by talking conference realignment, because that's the most fun thing to talk about when it comes to college football. On Friday, The Athletic and Max Olson in particular reported that there have been high-level talks between the Atlantic Coast Conference, the Big Ten, and the Pac-12. Now, what that meant is that they've been talking about creating an alliance, a scheduling alliance that would allow the different conferences to have exclusive scheduling abilities between the three conferences. This is a big deal for the way that conferences are looking at how the future of college football is. Obviously, this has been kicked off by the initial blow by the SEC with the additions of Texas and Oklahoma. These three other conferences, they had to figure something out. And what they're thinking of is figuring out a way to kind of combine their resources, combine their strengths to take on the SEC. Now, this does a whole bunch of different things. First of all, it puts those three schools on a bit of a closer playing field to the SEC. Now, SEC money-wise is still going to be far superior to those three conferences, but it'll give each of those member schools, I think I saw somewhere between $5 to $7 million if they got it done the way that they've been talking about. Now, again, this is all just conceptual right now. They're still just talking about it. It has nothing. It's not been done yet. Now, the ramifications for something like this, as I just said, those conferences would be great, would be a bunch of different things. First of all, think about if you're Boston College, right? Right now, you look at the schedule, it's the same thing basically every year. You get Clemson, Wake Forest, NC State, Syracuse, and Louisville. And and you get a couple other schools, you get Virginia Tech, and then some out-of-conference games. How much better would it look like if you're like, oh, I get, these couple of, we play these ACC schools every year. Maybe we don't play Virginia Tech anymore. Now we also play Stanford, we play UCLA, we play Michigan, and we play Purdue this year, instead of playing, Ball State or something like that. Do you know what I mean? Like, you get some really good schools. And I think what they're going to look at when they're trying to schedule this is like each year, each school will get, either one or two from each conference. So you get like maybe one or two Pac-12 games and one or two Big Ten games. Who wouldn't want some Pac-12 after dark? Wouldn't you want to watch a Boston College game against Oregon at like 11 o'clock at night? I mean, I wouldn't, because I'm a dad and I have to get up the next morning. But Pac-12 after dark is a lot of fun. So there's that piece. Just from the scheduling perspective, it would be fun. Secondly, this would also put the screws to Notre Dame, so they would basically be forced to maybe make a decision on joining the ACC. Because think of it this way. Why is Notre Dame not joining the ACC right now? It's their scheduling freedom. And what schools do they want to play? They want to play Stanford. They want to play Michigan State. They want to play USC. They want to play these, these Pac-10 schools and Pac-12 schools and these Big Ten schools. If they're part of a scheduling alliance, and that scheduling alliance says, you know what, Notre Dame, if you don't want to join us, then you're out. You can schedule Navy, Army, and UMass every year, and good luck trying to figure out the rest. Maybe then that's the thing that makes Notre Dame go, okay, well, we're kind of screwed, but hey, we can frame it that, hey, you're going to get what you want too, because all those schools that you want are now part of our group. So, hey, you can do that. So maybe you get Notre Dame to be part of it. That's another addition. The last part is a negative. If this was to happen, if these three conferences were to join forces to battle the SEC, the wicked force in the South, there's a big loser in this, and you could probably guess who that is right away, and that's the Big 12. So obviously, if there's a Power 5 conferences right now, there's the SEC, the Big 10, the Pac-12, the ACC, and the Big 12, and you're missing one of them in this new realigned future. the Big 12 is pretty much dead. Now, they could try some things, like maybe, they could figure out a way to add like UCF and Memphis and SMU and some of the, Boise State, some of the bigger G5 schools that have been powerhouses, and try to like really build them up. But in reality, is that the same as having like Ohio State? It's not. It's as much as they want to say it is, it's not. So this seems to me like the Big 12 will probably falter, because you got to also imagine too, like West Virginia's going to see this and go, I want to be part of the ACC now. I don't want to be a part of this. And then, some of the other schools, like maybe Oklahoma State's like, I'm going to go to the Pac-12 or I'm going to go to the SEC. So you get a feeling it's gonna, if this happens, it could come down to, basically we're down to two conferences now, that conglomerate and the SEC. So we'll have to see how this kind of shapes up, because it's all just talk right now. Now, if you like this show and you're getting ready for football, because I know I am, you need to check out the Fantasy Live show. Have fantasy football questions you need answers before the draft? Don't miss Locked On Fantasy Live on Wednesday, August 18th at 9 p.m. Eastern, streaming on the Locked On NFL YouTube page. Subscribe now so you don't miss it. Our stable of fantasy experts will answer your questions live or submit them ahead of time to Locked On Network on Twitter. I need to watch this show because, let's be real here. My team last year were terrible because I drafted Cam Newton as my quarterback, and he was awful. So I could really watch this Fantasy Live show and hopefully get a better idea of not blowing up my team again in the first week. But we'll be back in just a moment when we talk about an injury that is already making making me feel a little queasy about the future of Boston College football for this season. But before we do that, let's chat a little bit about Sweat Block. Sweat Block is for the men and women who sweat. I am a sweater, and it's doctor created, it's doctor recommended. It works up to 7 days per use. It's a little wipe. You just wipe it where you sweat, and boom. If it doesn't work, they have a money back guarantee. And it's been used everywhere. It's been featured and tested on the Rachel Ray Show by firefighters, and has over 13,000 reviews on Amazon. Now, if you are like me, you sweat all the time. And I hate having to go out, especially right now during the summer, because I feel like I'm sweating through everything, like whether it's a shirt or a suit. I can't go to weddings. Now, Sweat Block is perfect for that. Nobody likes pitting out during a show or, a speech. You just wipe this on, and it's more effective than most clinical antiperspirants. You just apply it at night before bedtime, boom, you wake up, wash, and you're good to go for the next day, guaranteed. I know this sounds too good to be true, but I literally only have to use Sweat Block once or twice a week, and it keeps me dry the whole time. So check them out. Get it today for 20% off at sweatblock.com with promo code LOCKEDON, or at Amazon or CVS. The Locked On Boston College podcast is supported in part by the Charlestown Law Group. You need to know about the Charlestown Law Group. If you or someone you know have recently received a traffic violation, speeding, or other moving violation that you would like to contest, then you need to call the Charlestown Law Group. Attorney Jason Campbell and his team can and will help you fight the ticket. Did you know that a moving violation can stay on your insurance record for 5 to 6 years? One conviction can cost you thousands. If you want to win, you generally need an attorney. Why not hire a professional litigator with a track record of success? Jason Campbell at the Charlestown Law Group will fight for you. He's a proud Boston College grad and an experienced litigator that will be able to tell you if you have merit before you go to court, saving you both time and money. The Charlestown Law Group will fight tickets anywhere in Massachusetts, and they offer discounted rates for Boston College students and alumni. The Charlestown Law Group specializes in traffic violations, and they will fight for you. Call them immediately at 617-872-8652. That's 617-872-8652 for a free consultation, or visit thecharlestownlawgroup.com. Go Eagles! Welcome back. This is Locked On Boston College. Now, we've been positive about this upcoming season for over 3 months now, I feel like. Every day I get on, I'm really positive. And you know that when summer practice begins, that bad news is going to happen. Sometimes it's transfers. A lot of times it's injury, because football is a violent game. And as much as you want everyone to come through healthy, it happens every year. Last year it was Kobe White. Remember, he got hurt. It seemed like a couple weeks in a training camp, and he was gone for the season. Well, 2021's here, and it hasn't changed. And Boston College has already lost a player for the season. Reported by Pete Thamel that Chibueze Onwuka, the defensive tackle who transferred to Boston College last year from Buffalo, is going to miss the whole season with an injury that he sustained during training camp. This is brutal for Boston College. The Eagles already had a relatively, I want to say kind of weak, I don't want to say weak, questionable, let's say they're questionable, defensive line. You don't have like the big thumpers like Zach Allen or Harold Landry on there, and you definitely don't have the defensive tackles like a BJ Raji or Ron Brace that they've had in the past. Chibueze Onwuka was going to be probably the most, he definitely would have been the most experienced, probably the most talented defensive tackle they had. Last year, he came in, he started, I think, 5 or 6 games out of 11, but he was playing in almost all of them. And, the starts don't really matter. He'd come in at different parts. But he was talented. I mean, a guy that could really disrupt passing games and was stout on the defensive tackle against the run. He had 2.5 sacks. He had, 2.5 tackles for losses. He had 2 forced fumbles. For a defense that Boston College has this year that definitely has question marks already, and many people are still wondering what they're going to look like, losing a player like Onwuka is definitely a big loss because, he was going to be stability. He's a graduate student. He's been here before. He decided to come back for that extra year, and now he's gone. Not sure if because of with this whole COVID thing, and he got that extra year of eligibility because of COVID, if he still could come back for another year, or even if he'd be interested. I mean, gosh, he's gonna be like 24, 25 at this point. Maybe he just wants to move on with his life. But it's a bummer. So where does Boston College go from here? This is the first big loss Boston College has, a starter, a player that you knew was going to start. And the worst part about this is Onwuka was going to start against another question mark because we don't know who the second defensive tackle was going to be because Luke Beckett transferred and that position still has question marks. So if you go to bcbulletin.com, my site, and you check out some of our articles from the last day, you can read about who I put up as potential replacements. But I'm going to go over it now because I want to give you my lowdown on each candidate and who I think will be the starting 2 and kind of give you more of a feel of what actually will happen. So Cam Horsley is the one that you're going to want to watch. Last year he had 13 tackles and tackle and a half for loss and a fumble recovery. He was a big name coming out of practice reports last year. We've talked about this on the podcast a lot. You can check out our review of the defensive tackle position. But his workload increased as the season went on. After a big camp, I think there's real high potential for Horsley. And this could be his opportunity to jump in the starting lineup for the next 3 years. I really like him, and I can't wait to see what he can do. Going into the season, even with Onwuka here, I assume that Horsley would have been the other defensive tackle to start. But now he's going to have, I assume he's going to have to be, so he's going to be one. The other name, I think there's a couple other names that you're going to want to watch for too. Chris Banks is a transfer from Temple. He's a junior. Now, if you don't remember his story, he's actually been on Locked On Boston College. If you go back, I think right around when he transferred, probably like January, he came on and talked to us. So he had 18 tackles, 3 tackles for a loss last year for Temple before transferring to Boston College. Now, back in the days when he was being recruited, he originally committed to Boston College for Steve Adazio. Now he's back. He's big and physical. I've heard great things about him from Jeff Hafley and his staff. They really think highly of him. I think he's primed to take that big next step and become a starter. So I'm not sure if he'll, there's 3 real big names I can't wait to see who takes it, but Banks is another big one to watch for. The next one is TJ Ram. Now, TJ Ram has 66 tackles in his career, 9 tackles for a loss. This is a guy that has shown flashes of at one point, I believe a couple of years ago, I referred to him as, I think me and Mark Herzlich had both said the same thing, that he reminds you of BJ Raji at times, but it's not consistent. He's obviously not BJ Raji, but he's had those moments. So maybe he becomes more of a situational player. Maybe he starts. He started more than Boozie did last year. They need to see him really step up and take that next step. But he could be one. He's a graduate student. He's got a couple more years left. He's got 1 more year left. Another big name to watch for is Isaiah Henderson. This is a name that you may not be familiar with. Isaiah Henderson was a player that Adazio's staff really liked. They were really high on him as a freshman. He played in 4 games, had 4 tackles, but he missed all of last year with an injury. I think, I've heard the new staff, they really like him too. So there's something there with him. There is really something there with Isaiah Henderson. And I'm not sure if he'll be the starter this year, or my thought is those 4 guys, I think there's going to be some combination and all 4 of them will play. I'm sure that's probably the 4 that you're going to see on the 2 deep. But I'm not sure of those 4 who's going to be the starter. If I was to guess, My two starters, I would think, will be Ram and Banks, but I'm not sure. I can't tell you why. You got to see the practices to be able to do that. And then finally, there's some other options that could be it as well. There is Ryan Betro. He's played a bunch. He's from Lawrence Academy. He strikes me as more lower on the depth chart, but you never know. He could play it out in practice. And then there's two freshmen, Owen Stodmeyer and Nigel Tate. Both have not practiced with the team until the summer, so they're a little bit behind schedule. And that's okay. The part about Nigel Tate that strikes me is he's 6'3", 340 pounds. That is a dude. That guy is huge. And I'll have to share a picture of him on Locked On BC Twitter tomorrow. There's a picture of him I used with his recruiting post on BC Bulletin. He looks like a giant man chasing a kid. He's humongous. I'm not sure. I don't wonder if that 340 is like the weight they want, or if they're gonna have to fix that, or whatever he's at. But he's intriguing. So there's just two other names you might want to watch for as well. Now we'll keep an eye on the injuries as we continue down the road. And just as a side note too, I had mentioned on the podcast that Media Day is on Tuesday this week, and I'd have a whole bunch of interviews. Well, they postponed it because there was an issue with scheduling that they had to kind of fix about. So hopefully we'll be able to get there for another day. But just keep your eyes on that. So don't be disappointed that I don't have anything when we record later this week. And to wrap up our conversation, in a moment, we're going to talk about linebackers, and we'll get into where they're at and some of the comments that Hafley has made, and get into what I think will happen at the linebacker position heading into 2021. But before we do that, let's talk about Built Bar. I love talking about Built Bar. It's a protein bar covered in 100% chocolate. It is delicious, and it comes in 9 great flavors and a bunch of specialty flavors. And right now, I heard that they have a Rocky Road coming out. I can't wait to try that. They also have coconut almond, raspberry, mint brownie, double chocolate, and salted caramel. There's something for everyone. You can even get the variety pack. If you don't know which one, you get 2 of each of the 9 flavors. And if you like them, try them out because they have 17 grams of protein. Most have only 130 calories and 4 grams of sugar with 4 net carbs. It's perfect for the keto diet or those who are trying to watch their weight. Head on over to BuiltBar.com and use promo code LOCK15 and you'll get 15% off your first order. Again, use promo code LOCK15 for 15% off at BuiltBar.com. Now let's chat about BetOnline.ag. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your sports action. Baseball is in full swing and football is right around the corner, and you can track it all at BetOnline. Before the next pitch, head on over to BetOnline on your laptop or mobile device and check out all the great sporting news, sign-up bonuses, and contest information. Don't sit on the sidelines anymore, as this is your chance to get into the game as the teams prep for their run to the playoffs. Head on to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today and receive a 50% welcome bonus when you use promo code LOCKEDON on your first deposit. Again, promo code LOCKEDON and you're going to receive a 50% welcome bonus. You can't beat that. BetOnline, your online sportsbook experts. We're going to get into linebackers in just a minute, but I want to tell you about Locked On Bets. Betting on college football doesn't have to be a guessing game if you listen to the new Locked On Bets podcast hosted by your boy Q and handicapping expert Lee Sterling. Get daily picks, blowout specials, wrong team favorite picks, and Lee Sterling's lock of the day. Follow the Locked On Bets podcast brought to you by BetOnline.ag, wherever you get your podcasts. All right, we're talking about linebackers here on Locked On Boston College, and this is a big question heading into this season, as Boston College has lost 2 of their starting linebackers, Max Richardson and Isaiah McDuffie, and they're going to have a handful of linebackers who are vying to get that starting position. And I think the Hafley talked about it last week at practice. You know, many of us have already had assumptions in our brain. Oh, this guy's going to be the starter. It's definitely not going to be him. Hafley says they're all battling for it right now. And there are so many different options and permutations of what linebacking group could be the starters and how they utilize all these players that it's fascinating to think about and even more to talk about. So when you look at it, the first name that pops up is Isaiah Graham Mobley, who did a what I can only call a wrestling move where he was on his back and flipped up to basically a standing position with all his pads on today at practice. Pretty incredible for a guy that's like 240 pounds. You can check that out on BC Eagles Twitter. But anyways, he's a transfer from Temple. He's the prototypical linebacker. He's quick. He's agile. He definitely fits what Hafley's doing, and the staff has been effusive in their praise of his play so far. So he's someone to watch for. And then next to him, Isaiah Graham might not be the starter, but there's a bunch of different options. So, there's the couple guys that were former safeties that they've moved down to linebackers. And those two would be Cam Arnold and Bryce Steele. Now, Hafley has already said that he really wants speed at that linebacker position. He wants speed all over the place. So what better way to get speed than move a former defensive back, that in this case safeties, up and making them more of the physical linebackers, but not ones with speed. So Arnold last year, he was a strong safety with BC. He's going to get a chance to play at linebacker. Will he start? We don't know. But he gives them some options, and he's fast. He's got some good speed. He's not a slow thumper. Same thing with Bryce Steele. Bryce Steele is, a hybrid safety linebacker. He's a freshman, 4-star from South Carolina, flipped from the Gamecocks. And he's exciting. I don't know if he's going to be able to get the starting job either, but so there's those guys. And then you have more of the prototypical linebackers. Guys like Vinny DePalma, Nick DiNucci, Joe Sparacio, and even maybe some of the freshmen like Owen McGowan or Casey Finney. Now, you want speed, but you do need physical linebacker. And Hugh Davis, sorry, I didn't mean to leave Hugh off of this. You need physical linebackers too. And, as much as you want to say that like maybe Arnold or Steele are faster, guys like Vinny DePalma are pretty quick. DiNucci's not a slow guy either. So you got all these different guys. Now they're all battling, and that's great because you want the cream to rise to the top. You want these guys working their butts off to see who gets that position. You don't want to just hand it to someone. And what we get out of all of this is two linebackers that hopefully will fit Hafley's system and get them to the next level. Now, we just talked about Boozie being hurt, Chibueze Onwuka. They're going to need some good linebackers to battle that. Now, so people have been asking me, who do I think will be the starting two linebackers? And I already gave it to us, to my premium members on the Discord channel last week. And it's not really a Discord exclusive. I'll give it to you here too, because it's not really that big of a deal. My two exclusive, my linebackers, I think. Isaiah Graham Mobley is if I was a betting man, I would put him as 100%. I feel like he's going to get it, barring something bad happening. He'll be one. And my other guess is, and I know people want like Bryce Steele or Cam Arnold, I don't think it'll be them. I think my other guess is Vinny DePalma. He's got the speed, he's got the experience. I like what he's been able to do. I think he'll fit into Hafley's system. I think he'll be there. Now, that being said, that does not mean that Bryce Steele, Cam Arnold, and these other guys won't find a role because, if you saw anything with Hafley's system last year, he likes to cycle guys in and out. Now, Richardson and McDuffie were basically out there because there wasn't really much depth left. Sparacio and DePalma were hurt last year, and, they didn't have a lot of depth at linebacker. Now they do. I wouldn't be surprised if, based on packages, you saw Cam Arnold out there, you saw Bryce Steele out there. You'll see those guys play. I just think, on paper, the two starting linebackers will be Isaiah Graham Mobley and Vinny DePalma. That's my guess. And I could be totally wrong, but that's where I'm at. So we'll find out more about this as we go along. On tomorrow's show, we'll continue getting ready for the season, man. I'm getting excited about this. We'll have more to talk about. If you like my podcast, please go to YouTube and type in Locked On Boston College. You'll find my site. You just hit subscribe. Subscribing on YouTube is absolutely free, and you'll get all our podcasts there. We'll be doing special edition shows during the season. I'll be giving you special behind-the-scene Locked On Nows. When I get to interview people, there'll be some of those up there. You're going to get all sorts of goodies on the Locked On page, so make sure you hit the subscribe on YouTube. And we'll be back again tomorrow. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at LockedOnBC. You can find me on Twitter at AJ Black. AJ_BC. I got the little blue check mark. Find me there. We'll see you all again soon. Take care, everyone.